Today's date is the 17th of March 2026. Time now is 12:03 a.m. So today's video is basically on parasensiology or sense of direction, primarily um, complete systems. Complete systems. So what is a complete system? So the goal of this is to deal with kind of the um, metropolitan area network or wireless area network, a wide, obviously wild area network. So my triplex bundle of 1,500,000 square meters of land is literally gonna be hard to sustain ecology. So you're gonna have the physical wires, and you're gonna have the electrical wires, but I want this to be you're gonna have wireless systems. So a complete system is going to resolve this issue. Namdi, if you forget this Namdi, you're gonna forget a lot of things. But just remember that you're tripolar. So breathing is not optional. Breathing is first only in constitution. Living is next. To breathe air and to live life. No, that's the first policy. That's the first policy. To, breathing and living, breathing and human procedure. The goal is to have breathing and living as the very policies in the ecosystem, and breathing and living only work is optional. That's constitution and very policy for what. The survival is not optional, and maybe ESM, this is really what the police, they're not just the police, guys, looking that good, they've been upgraded, but in a way you don't understand yet. Yes. So, the police don't be touched because of the law, but, the sovereignty, the regulation is for my obedience legislation. GitHub.com, first obedience legislation. And, I'm trying to design the armor for the suit, the kind of thing the police will wear. But, the police needs a proper upgrade. So, I'm still trying to design what you will wear, when you're policing. Um, but yeah, I really have the outlook on that. So you have the battlefield, you have the butterfly, you have butterfly in the battlefield. You can that's what you want. I'm just trying to get it out. Yeah, basically. But okay, let's go complete system now. So design. So I'm reinventing the police. What the police will wear. No. And you guys allow guns, the police allow weapons, because as the ESN is now, that's not the one I'm getting. So I'm getting all the ESN benefits. But you're just the police now. That's the difference. You're policing. And police yourself like a policeman. And you guys gonna have anti-jam radar. So what is the complete system? A complete system definition is a system that always has some kind of signal, some kind of information, some kind of interpretation via its operation. It's a complete system because I'm trying to follow. So, Uche, Eze, and Obi are my persona, and I'm complete, and I'm proven and complete with the spirit of completion of a complete system. So, for example, you have the past, future, and present. These are three axes that can access interpretation, and we have three observers in the system. Uche void pointer, let's say void pointer will be void pointer, but this void pointer represents the actual trend. So a complex system allows for a radius to be anti-jammed because there's also some signal in the radius system. For example, if a radio system has signal, it can connect and talk to people. If it has no signal, it is off. If it has no signal, it is off. If it has a noise, it's being jammed. If it has no noise, that means it's not being jammed. It's being But the computer system is a trident. So the computer system has to understand that this a small program these traits, and this is what I call because I'm a philosopher, basically I'm a philosopher. The computer system, the breath life are not optional. So what needs to happen is a signal in the system. A complete system always has a signal. Or a vision. So it can be like a telemetry system. A telemetry system can carry out data, but if there are three tridents, observing you got a triangle. So you got Uche is here. I love this example by the way. So basically, a complete system is a stuff. It's like it is a puzzle. So you can have a puzzle that's symmetric, symbolic by design. For example, you have I. I is an anchor. I is not a point. You get two types. So all nodes are anchors. All messages are pointers. All nodes are anchors. All people in the channel are anchors. So channel zero is an anchor. It's a transmitter. Now, transmitter send messages. Channel two is a receiver. Channel three is a verifier or broadcaster. So you have a channel A to I. A to I represent alphanumeric A to I, A0, A1, A2, A4, A5, A6, A7, A8, A9. But A0 is reserved. Make it properly, actually. Let me try to design it properly. Let me try to do the paper here. So you can have system of this chair was made before, but let me not diverge here. Here. So you got to have a system or the police radio. This is the police radio system. You're gonna have A0, A023, representing channel 0, channel 1, and channel 2. And channel 3, CH3, channel 3, A0 channel 3 is your channel. And try to mitigate relay attacks, and replay attacks. So relay attacks means you copy a signal, and replay means you retransmit a signal. So relay means you copy. Relay means you copy a signal, you copy some message, and replay means you replace the message. But there's a voting in place. So the goes to have a system where you have an anti-jam protocol in place already by design. So you have so you got alpha nucleus. You can B. So B4 is a valid channel, guys. B4 is a valid channel. I'm supposed to be B4, and you are if I B4 is a valid channel. I'm speaking to some person on A3. Now A3 is a man called Uche. You from Bella, C for Charlie, H for Ham, E for Oscar. Uche is speaking to my second persona, Obi. Now, words like Ahmad, pointers to Obi and Obi and Ezen, but these are referential states of anchors. Referential, basically, these are aliases, basically. So whenever Obi outputs I, he's talking about before. Whenever Uche outputs I, he's talking about the A3, the radio station. Now, very important to understand this. Channel 0 of B4 and B4 and A3 are all stations. The stations. They're all stations. I'm trying to model it properly now. Station. So B4 is a station, B5 is a station, but this is how broadcast works. So B4 wants to broadcast, B4 can only broadcast B4 can broadcast to all channels, all B star, B star. B star represents anyone on B0, B3, all the way to B9. Here alpha this is a broadcast. So if this channel can broadcast that channel. So is an A3. A3 can only broadcast, and here broadcast from A3, A3, B3 to B9. B3 to A3 to B9, A3 to A9. So anybody on A3, A4, A5 can hear the message. So how does the anti-jamming system work? A complete system always has to have a signal, and that signal comes from definition of the ecosystem. For example, a noise contains a signal. And that signal is not deciphered here because of the frequency of the wavelength, the frequency of the a no noise is a state. So these represent states as well as information. So if you think of signal as stateless, as a state with information, a noise is a state that contains incoherent information. And a no signal will contain noise, will contain a state information via a probe that has no a state of information, a stateless active state that contains no information in a system. The goal is to have it as tropic. So, and then there be no noise. No noise means that you have noise in the system. So the quantum radio system is for the police, the Eastern Uniform Police. Because if the police on the channel, that's for them, Eastern Security Network. The police on the channel and the police are need to work on the channel via a radio system. And the radio system has no noise. So no noise means only signal exists. No noise means that so if you have no noise, you're talking about no noise means you have noise, signal, and the variance of noise. So you have you have a trident model. You understand that using the trident, not just a make a believe thing, it's into term. So the broadcasting station is like a radio station, and radio station is basically a radio station. So you cannot have ATF. So anyone can be on channel zero. No one can be on channel zero because that's a transmission channel. Channel one is channel one is channel one is receiving channel, and channel two is a verifier, a broadcasting channel, uh, and channel four is the verifier. But channel get four channels. I'm thinking about my central design. So if I make it four channels, yeah, I think it'd be better. Yes, that's beautiful. So basically now that that's how British systems have gone. So, to verify a message, you have to listen to it, and you don't need a lot to do. So you have to get information. So that would be a signal here. And this signal will be in the broadcast channel because the broadcast don't verify of the message. So it goes into any kind of Maxwell equation defined by the that will go into the broadcast channel, and that will still output the message as a signal, no signal or state, electric state, noise and no noise. Basically this that basically ensure the signal is coherent. So this is the table. You have a table here. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and you have 0, 1. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So you have A0, B0, B transmitters, and you have how many stations? You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you have 7 other channels you can use. So 0 is transmitter, 0 is transmitter, but they are three triangles. So basically, the station. I'm thinking about how I do this properly. It's has a zero handle transmitter of channel three. So we have channel three. They are channel one. So A three A zero has A zero to I zero handles transmission of data. B A one to uh, I one handles receiving all information via a pro packet. And basically the praise the whole system. And A2 is receiver to I2 is a verifier of the message. But it's only verifier or a jam. It's a verifier. It's a broadcaster because basically the system message itself basically it runs itself. Example, if I have a message, but so mathematically think of the message, your words as the packets, and the packets are basically digital waveforms or they're called Fourier series. The first is what's very important to understand. So the messages are analog waveforms of digital waveforms of analog waveforms. So they are basically you have why this is all possible because you have Fourier series. A Fourier series is an imaginary unit. It's basically an analog waveform of a digital signal. And because digital analog waves of flow is interchangeable, you can convert it into a Maxwell equation that's equivalent to the system. And this is the important part of the stuff. The Fourier series, the Fourier series, and show because I used to work with Fourier, I forgot to do that. Fourier series, Fourier series of France, of Oscar, you from Alpha Romeo, Alpha Echo, E for Echo, Alpha Echo, is a Fourier series is a series of a digital waveform via Stoke and so on. So it maps to the AM and the amplitude frequency AM and FM, the amplitude elongation over the hertz framework, over measure of hertz, the amplitude of which is basically a longitudinal wavelength. So you have two different wavelengths here. You have four types of wavelengths you can measure. You have digital, or analog, digital and analog um, amplitude modulation, which are Fourier series, which are digital equivalents of analog signals, but this can be mapped to the analog waveform via amplitude. So you have digital amplitude modulation. We can visit to a Maxwell equation, or sort of define the protocol via electromagnetic field. But the two things is you have latitude, which are FM, and you have longitudinal wavelengths, which are AM, amplitude modulation. So the two types are you have two types of propagation that can be blocked. So there's a signal in that formation set. So the longitudinal model is not a heterogeneous it's a homogeneous type first case. So this basically means there's a type of data to a kind of relationship, type to kind relationship. But if you have a longitudinal propagate as a longitudinal wave, you have a time first. So the latitudinal waveform is literally making sure you have the data is in a kind. So if it is in a kind first, you have to go stick to relationship over a signal space that you can that you can do talk to about instead. You can give information from, because the system has to be a system of it's like a radio system, but it broadcasts, and the broadcast ensures that the system can deal with inflation. So the system mathematically is seasoned, and it cannot move through because there's some message coming through, through the noise. Because the broadcast can do some manipulation, but some person a message to it's my radio B3 gets jammed, B3 gets jammed, and that is my broadcaster has to still distill something, and the broadcaster is a distillation algorithm that still sends messages and gets coherent. So it's from it's gonna be anti-jam protocol. So anti-jam protocol, you can jam the radio system because it's taking it takes in some information from the to broadcast. So my broadcast is automatically active, basically. It's switched to broadcast mode, and the broadcast allows you to take some information via the broadcasting. It's not verify the information is correct, or if my enemy listening to me, or whatever the information is. So the three tridents for yes, no, and maybe are what's used because if you have yes, 1 times 0, if you have 1 to the power of 0, you have 1. If you have 0 to the power of 1, you have 1. And this is a vector, 0 to for yes and no. So if you have all of this to the 1 to the power of 1 to the power of -1, that will be times -1 to the power of 1 to 1 1. So 1 to the power of -1 is, because maybe it's yes or no, but yes no is consensual. So yes no is binary, but it doesn't have consistent. So the question is data, and data is a maybe state. So it can be yes or no, or yes or no. So you have to use an XOR operator to determine the kind of information over the byte string. So to the power of a maybe will be the row conjugate, which will basically be maybe will be 0, 1, 0, 0, then a 1, 1 as a column vector this time, 0, and 0 as 1 as a row vector. But the system is maintains this is a matrix. This is a matrix of constellation matrix. So you have 0, 0, 1 as a vector, and you have as a column vector. So you have 1 again. You have 1, 0, 0, 1, and as a column vector, and 1, 0, 0, 1 as a column vector. The two. I'm busy. I'm busy. So you have a system of heterogeneous homogeneity via the longitudinal model. And the goal is to have the system respect the mathematical principles that involve with the electrical governance, which is Maxwell's equations. They are literally Fourier series, the digital wavelength, and absolute. So that you verify that method is coherent via, because really something other feature, they're analog waves. And just converting between the two is hard enough for me. But you have the yes, no, and maybe based on the three people, the three anchors of the channel, and the three anchors are the pointers to your system. So but your channel in any state can be in a 3 states. So D4 can be a transmitter, a receiver, and a broadcaster, or verify of the message. But the broadcasting verify message is very important, because broadcasting is you sending a message out. You send a message out, and verify means you're checking the message. Now, when you're checking the message, your radio is not being used; it's on hold. No, isn't it? So the verifier has to ensure that one packets can go through via a probe. So the goes like if you have if so you have two keys, so you have 2 keys, so 2 actions. but that means I'm not invariant. So you have so you got an observer, and because you got an observer, the observer is observing what is going to broadcast and verify. So if I show my eyes, if I look away, if I say I have two channels, broadcast and verify, a separate channel, and so in broadcasting, I am what sending a message, but sending a message means sending a signal, sending a signal, so you can get the signal. So, but when I then look away from the broadcast key, which is the key that is the broadcast, I am now in a state of verification. Now I'm not verifying the setup. If the setup, I can check via probe. So it looks like it's printing this the thing. So because I have this electromagnetic down verified, because the keys are broadcast or verified, broadcast or verified, broadcast or checked. But it's the important state of a half. So if I have two public keys, so you have two public keys, for example, one's for broadcasting, the other for verifying. I look at the public key for broadcasting, and the public key for broadcasting is literally I'm not going to have two public keys to one public key. So the public key will be the 30 minutes. There will be a half. So a half hour switch for broadcasting means that you can verify. But if you verify, I'm what I have broadcasting. So then so the switch has to so it's push to hold, push to talk. I'll be literally holding the signal down. But so but what can go switch is gonna become a verification system. It's already in a half state. But because hold. So the holding is the time that I hold. So if I hold it time, hold it for 12 seconds. 12 times a half is a supervision of verification for the time. Because just let that message go, that whole supervision go, I have to verify. So now I'm using the verify key of so I'm going to receive message. So it will not jam, So really 12 take up 12 milliseconds, 12 seconds, 12 times 12 times a half will be 12 over 1 times 1/2, which would be 12 times 1 is 12. No. This is not coming to system. 12 times a half will be divided by 12 and a half divided by 2, which would be the sheer common denominator of 6. 2 times 6 is 12, which would be 6 over 2. So basically, the times 6 is 12. So we can truly convert the system into a house. So 12 divided by 1 is 12. But there's a ratio of 12 to 1 times 12 over 2, which is basically 12 12 over 1 divided by 1 over 12 times 2 over 1, which is basically 2 over 12. Now 2 over 12 divided by 2 is the simplest ratio 1 over 6. So 1/6 of the message, 1/6 of the message is or 6 to the power of -1. 6 to the power of -1 is 6 to the power of -1 divided by 1. Basically 6 to the power of -1 divided by 1, where 1 is the vector. Always but yeah, 1 divided by 1 divided so so which will be the consistent state of the signal of our but should represent this case of the of 6 units I get on a half and the software will as a signal. So it basically becomes a signal that can verify from another user, who's basically on the channel. the system said the signal consistent of electromagnetic field, which is the world around us of electromagnetism. You also call polar system. So you got a polar rotation. Which is basically because magnetic fields are also polar axis too. So different things here. Magnetic fields are also polar. So for magnetic that you rotate the magnet, you have some kind of signal, but you have electromagnetic code. You get it. It's like so you can like to make the wire. Get the wire. You take let's go. You cut take the wire, cut the wire in two. You get a wire, you cut it in two, and you take that wire, you cut it into two again. You get four wires. Now that four wires are addition. So you get two sets of wires, and you then get magnets in between them, and you put the magnet in the center. I'm trying to show you guys. So first step, get a wire, cut it in four, the two wall in center, you have a transmitter and receive transmitter. You have one wire here, transmitter, and you have a coil. You have a node and start coil, and you have current here, current here. You have a cable, and you have a wireless receiver, and you have a node, and you have so you of course you have a transmitter. So you have a transmitter. So you have a coil. So you have a wire. You cut the wire into four. You take two pairs of wire, you connect it via a magnetic coil, and the magnetic coil will basically be electromagnetic system. So basically, you can have the coil, the magnet in the center of the system, determine the rotation via electric current. So you have electric induced magnet system, but not the magnetic. So you have a magnetic system that's induced by electricity. So basically, you have a magnetic coil, and the coil can be any kind of wire. So you have a magnet first, and this is what we will send the message. So basically, the message is magnetic. So it basically associated this system you can reallocate channels too. So this is here for reallocation of channels. So it's truly blocked. B4, you have a magnet. So you have two magnets. So you have you have a magnet of channel zero, channel no channel four, of B6 B4. Now B4 is channel B4 is a channel. B4 is a channel. So if you have B4 and you're talking to A6, and I mean you're talking to A6, and A6 gets blocked. It can go to A7, and that A7 can go to send a message to A6, because you're a broadcast, and that's how that works. So you have that kind of message there, because the electrical core is spinning via current. So you have basically this is a magnetic memory system for signals. And since you have a magnetic coil, you have rotation. Because when you spin a magnet, you change the poles, and the poles store a message via an induced current. So it's on hold until you send the message, but until some kind of electric component listen, which are the electric means focus. You have an alternating current that can spin around via pi over 4, pi over 3, pi over 2, and pi via a block system, but it's electrostatic. It's electrostatic until some current is induced. From a channel, and that's the message gets across to the transmitter of channel 4, B6 and A6 to A7 via the broadcasting. The framework is done automatically. You just hear the message, but let's hit to the right people. So the beauty of this framework is that the wires are four. Take a long wire, 5 meter cable, 5 meter cable. You cut it into four pieces. 5 divided by 4. You have 5 divided by 4. You have 5 divided by 4. You have 1.25 cables. Now, 1.25 cables times 2 will give you two sets of 2.5 cables. an electrical cable will be able to send messages via a polar magnetic spin, a magnetic polar spin with an electrical when an electrical is induced into it. It's introduced, which is basically introduced via an alternating current, because the alternating current is basically 10% stability, because the current can charge itself, and that's why I love AC so much. So it's magnetic pole. So you used to get the magnet family. So you don't induce the magnetic field. The magnet is already there via the magnet, it's already there. But you induce a current, so the magnet spin can spin. And when that spin orientates the magnet, it's like a circular, like a petrol, you get a signal. You get some communication. So it works backwards too. I'm sure it works backwards too. So it's electromagnetic modulation or magnetic electromodulation. Basically, it's a magnetic memory system. So, for example, if I say the word I is a reference to what? To system. If I say the word I'm referring to something, system. Me, myself, and I. Basically, if I say I'm talking about me. I'm talking about me. If I say you, I'm talking about my other self, you. When no one's listening. If I talk about, because no one's here, if I say me, myself, and if I say I'm talking about all of ourselves, me as a whole, as a whole. So you get a quarter spin, a half spin, and an eighth spin. But this is spins of a system. So you're talking about basically the bytes model, the bytes. So you get 180, 1 these are called single Fourier series. You have to mention some, square root of I. Um, so that's the model of the system. That's what I'm saying. So that's what it really does. That's the reason works. So this is the banking system of the secret verifier.